If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good. And Mike, wasn't Allison Presley just wonderful?
You know, it just made me want to just trace that travel gnome all across the globe and know that I can feel good about it because there's so many green ways to travel.
Well, from now on, for all listeners out there, you can go to Travelocity.com and travel green. That's why we're here. Green is Good, to teach you how to travel green. Hey, and now on the second half, Mike, for those who want to learn how to live simply, we've got one of the greatest experts. We've got Wanda Urbanska to talk about living simply and simple living. So I think everyone should listen to this commercial. Then come on back to Green is Good.
If a little green is good, more is even better. Now, back to Green is Good with John Shigarian and Mike Brady.
Welcome back to Green is Good, and we're so excited to have with us today Wanda Urbanska on from Raleigh, North Carolina. Wanda's the author of The Heart of Simple Living, 7 Paths to a Better Life. Welcome to Green is Good, Wanda.
It's great to be on your show. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, now you're a well-known personality. You've been on Oprah and the CBS and NPR, and you've written many, many books. Talk about your latest book, The Heart of Simple Living, 7 Paths to a Better Life. Why write that book now, and why do our listeners want to buy it?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I have been writing about simplicity, simple living, sustainability for more than 20 years now. And when I first came out with it, people were, very, not suspicious, but they were like, is this really the right thing for us? Could this be bad for the national economy? There were a lot of skeptics. But since the recent downturn, everybody has been asking, how do we do it? They're not asking, should we do it? They're saying simple living is a lifestyle I want to embrace. And so the Heart of Simple Living really is a roadmap to how you can get on with a simple life, realize that living with a lower economic base can actually be good for you. You can learn to connect with community. You can be more thoughtful about your consumption patterns, and you can get on the path to financial independence. So all of these things are the upside of the downturn, and people are getting excited about it.
You know, Wanda, you've been doing this for 20 years, so obviously you were ahead of the curve. But now it seems as though the times have caught up with your message. Why, is this now theme of simplicity, chosen simplicity, becoming really mainstream today?
It really is. I mean, it's as mainstream as apple pie. Americans are embracing this all over the place. And one thing that the media has really not caught on to, except you guys, of course, is that there have been so many positive developments. Americans are saving money at a very rapid pace. And this is despite the fact that many of us have experienced job loss or cuts in pay. But we're still managing, as an aggregate, to save about 5% of our income. In terms of housing size, we're moving into smaller houses. The average house size has declined by 10% in 2 years, which means that Americans are stopping to live the grandiose dream and starting to get on with what is attainable and what is actually pleasurable.
That is interesting. So, what we love to talk about on this show are about the basic tenets of sustainability, people, planet, and profits. And also what Mike and I always like to do is give action steps to our listeners. We want our guests to give action steps because it's fun to teach, but it's also fun to give opportunities, windows for them to step through. What are your top 3 suggestions, since you are the simplicity expert? What are your top 3 suggestions for our listeners out there to really simplify their lives?
I think you have to start with finances, because finances and financial troubles are what give us so much trouble. I mean, if you're not able to pay your rent or your mortgage, or where your next paycheck is coming from, it's hard to live simply and have a clear vision of what you want to do. So, in terms of the first path to simple living is financial independence, and I suggest that people start to live frugally, pay their bills immediately, get a real x-ray of where you stand financially and get a road map to that. And, start to replace recreational shopping with thoughtful consumption. Another tip is to find housing happiness. And I think there are three key components to that: small, green, and paid for. And Americans are really working overtime to try to pay off their houses. If they're in something too big, they want to figure out a way to get out and to get something smaller and something paid off. In fact, I was having a conversation with my realtor today who was just in that situation. She said, I have a huge house with a swimming pool. I don't need it anymore. My husband is no longer working, so we're both surviving on my salary. I want to sell it and move into a small home that we can pay off.
Interesting. And how about green? When you say green, talk about the green part of housing.
The green part of housing is getting homes that are either retrofitting the home you have, which is, of course, is the greenest thing you can do rather than building new.
Sure.
Or if you are building new, making it as energy efficient as possible. But most of us are, at the current time, staying put. So what we're putting our dollars into is retrofitting, putting energy-efficient windows in, putting in insulation, things that you can't necessarily see. Fuel efficiencies are the new green. And I think in the future, in the very short-term future, houses will come with stickers, just like cars do, that tell you miles per hour, miles per gallon, and that sort of thing. Houses will have energy efficiency stickers, and people will be taking that a lot more seriously. So while we all love the granite countertops and the frills, it's these energy green components that are really the more important decision. You can get your granite countertops a couple years down the line.
So it's sort of like a LEED certified. Homes are going to be built LEED certified, and people are going to be able to basically appreciate that and spend money buying those because they know it's going to be a great ROI on that.
Exactly. Not only will it will future-proof them against surprises. In energy prices, it's only going one direction, and that's up. So they have to look on down the road 5, 10, 20 years down the line. But also, if and when they sell that home, I think that's going to be increasingly important that future buyers, would-be buyers, are going to be looking at those efficiencies. I mean, do they have a tankless water heater? Those are the things of tomorrow that are really, really going to count.
Interesting. And what's the third thing on, we got now homes, we got financial independence, and what's the third thing?
Well, in terms of work, I really think that finding meaningful work is an important part of the simple life, the good life. And a central part of that is really developing strong and significant relationships with coworkers, whether they be subordinates or superiors. And I think we've had such a rush lifestyle and so competitive that we haven't taken out time to develop those really crucial networks that can make the difference between happiness and unhappiness in the workplace. And if you're not in something you really love doing, though you may not just want to turn in your resignation till you find something else, start focusing on what you really want to do with your life. And sometimes it's not always the highest paying job. You may want to, I have the book, The Heart of Simple Living, is full of stories about people who made lifestyle shifts. You can do, for instance, a salesman who decided that he really wanted to teach, and that was his passion. So simple living is about finding your passion and finding a way to sort of reduce your financial needs so you can do what you really want to do and not neglect humanity in the process.
Got it. What's in the home? Everyone has a home, whether they rent it, whether they buy it. Talk about freshening up your house or streamlining your house or making it more efficient without spending a lot of money. This is something I know you know a lot about.
Well, something that is something that's so easy to do. If you can find an afternoon, whether you're male or female, or a couple, you can go through and say, we're going to do a streamlining game. Most people have too much stuff, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So how do we get rid of stuff? And you can set a limited period of time, an afternoon, even an hour would help, and just go through a designated area. It might be your living room. What is it that we don't need in here? What can go out? Take as much out and then clean and then put it back in and see what things you can either give to Goodwill, give to charity, consign if you want to make a few bucks. If you're really super motivated, you might want to have a yard sale and generate some more dollars. But streamlining is probably number one. And then adopting a mindset of, I don't want to bring in something unless I really know I need it and that I can pay for it and that I'm going to make a long-term commitment to it. To stop buying the cheap stuff that ends up in the garbage 6 months later and start making quality commitments towards merchandise that you really need and will commit to for a lifetime, quite frankly.
That makes a lot of sense. If your listeners just joined us and you have your laptop or iPad open like Mike and I do, or you're in front of your desktop, we've got Wanda Urbanska on with us, and she has a wonderful website also, www.simplelivingtv.net. Explain what simplelivingtv.net is, and also we know you're on Hulu, so explain what you're doing on Hulu.
Well, Simple Living with Wanda Urbanska is America's first nationally syndicated program that is advocating sustainable living. And we started back in 2004 in the dark ages of all this.
Wow.
And have had 4 seasons of production. The show originally aired on PBS stations around the country, and now it's available on Hulu.com. Simple living is, you kind of asked to define it, and the way that I define it, and we do at Simple Living TV, is if it's a table, it's got 4 legs. And those legs are environmental stewardship, thoughtful consumption, community involvement, and financial responsibility, and all 4 are interlinked. The good news, John and Mike, today is that Americans are really embracing simple living in amazing record numbers. I mean, people want it. They're gardening. The numbers of people who are planting a garden this year are skyrocketing and have done so for the last several years. As mentioned, people are looking for smaller homes so that there's less to take care of, less to heat and cool, and just an overall cozier aspect to life. People are also reclaiming the kitchen, wanting to cook more these days and get away from fast food and move into slow food.
Interesting. That is really interesting. And what on your website I see this term SUI. What there's so many acronyms in this world now. I can't keep up, Wanda. What does SUI mean?
SUI, well, it's so funny. I think I've actually coined one, and that is a single-use item. And America is overflowing with single-use items. That is throwaway cups, bags. We've even come to think of cars or furniture as disposable items. You see good, furniture out on the curb. People are just throwing it away. So I have a campaign against the single-use item. Now, very occasionally they're needed, like I think for medicinal or hospital uses. But really, can't we all carry our own travel mug with us? I mean, it's something we could really do, and we are. We're starting to do so. We're also carrying bags into the supermarket, and that just, if each of us does a little bit and makes a habit shift, we can do so much for the planet and even the economy. So I think that's what SUI is all about, and we're going to have a big SUI sign and a cross, a bar over it.
That is funny. How about when it comes to, we're talking about reducing our personal waste stream in our home. Mm-hmm. We've had some of the greatest leaders of green cleaning products on our show from, just some amazing people. What are some of your best practices in terms of cleaning our homes and living a simpler life?
Well, the first thing when it comes to cleaning our homes is think about the products you use, the substances you use to clean your homes, and think about our rates of cancer and disease. I personally think I would rather clean with something I wouldn't mind eating. So wouldn't you rather clean with lemon juice and baking soda and vinegar, those things that our great-grandmothers used when they cleaned their houses, than with some of these products that have unpronounceable chemical components? We don't know what they do. They are largely unregulated. So really, it's getting back to the simple notion of, hot water and simple soap. If you have a clogged up a garbage disposal, you might want to put some ice cubes and lemon in there, which could help clear it out. So I think getting back to basics is good. I think also getting away from the standard of perfection in our home is another thing that can sort of simplify the way we approach our house. Reducing your personal waste stream. Did you know that the average American throws out 4.5 pounds of garbage per day on average? That is an astronomical sum, especially when aggregated throughout a family, in a year's time. So reducing your personal waste stream is about trying to find ways to, limit the amount of waste that you bring into the house. And when you get into it, it can be really fun. I mean, you can compost your organic waste. That would be peelings from fruits and vegetables, and that sort of thing, and it makes some wonderful fodder for your garden in terms of the compost. And again, saves money. You won't have to buy soil supplements and that sort of thing if you do it yourself.
Interesting. Let's switch topics at the home from cleaning to now eating. Talk a little bit. You have some strong feelings on eating and family and sit down and meals and etc. I've read that in some of the notes here on your great writings and on your great website that I'm here in front of. And again, for our listeners, please go to Wanda's website. You're going to learn something, which is always wonderful. www.simplistic.net. It's a wonderful website. Mike and I are on it right now. I'm on it on my iPad. Mike's on his laptop. It's simply beautiful, well done, and it's very informational and resource based. Talk a little bit about, Wanda, your thoughts about sit down meals and why they're so important.
Well, it's very interesting. A number of sociologists have studied and have looked into what is the most important thing you can do for your kids if you have kids at home, or if you're married or have a significant other. What is the single most important thing you can do? And the answer is sit down and eat a meal with them as often as you can. If you can do it once a day, congratulations. You're in the top 5% of Americans. But sitting down with those significant people in your family, breaking bread, and doing it in a sort of thoughtful, non-rushed manner without distractions. I mean, this is not taking phone calls at dinner, checking your cell phone or watching TV. It's really focusing on the person who's sitting there with you and enjoying that food together. A ritual that I do in my home is we talk about what's the best thing that happened to you today, and then that's a way of allowing folks to share. What happened to you today that you feel blessed about. So developing rituals. Part of what simple living is about is thinking through our lives and redeveloping a construct to our lives that makes it good. And it's a matter of changing habits. We weren't a disposable culture. We weren't a group of people who stood in front of the refrigerator shoveling food in 100 years ago, 50 years ago. So you can say, you know what, I'm only going to eat sitting down.
Interesting.
And just making one little shift like that, and then checking in with yourself. How does it feel? Does it feel better? Do I feel like I'm really taking my nutrition in more consciously? Maybe I'll eat a little bit less when I do so. Those are the ways you get shifts in your lives, little steps. We say nothing's too small to make a difference, so start small.
We like that. Mike and I love that. That's spot on. Now we're eating, we're cleaning. Talk about a little bit outside. Gardening. We Mike and I we've had a lot of people on that say that the gardening trends are going up now. Is this true? Are people gardening more, and if so, why?
Well, Americans have become concerned about our food security, quite frankly. Especially, what are the big agribusinesses putting in our food? I mean, it's really concerning to some people, the GMOs, the genetically modified materials that are getting into our food crops. So what can you do to beat that?
Right.
Well, you can take control of your own food source by having a vegetable garden. And if your neighbors all do it, you can grow different things and swap, and then you're building community in the process, as well as relocalizing your economy and your food shed. So yes, the interest in gardening is just skyrocketing, up 20% from 2008, and the numbers continue to go up. again, it's because people are concerned about money, that they save money, and also just the taste of food, the enjoyment of food. So, again, I say start small. If you think, I can't have a garden, I'm too busy. Start with one tomato in a pot on your front porch or your back porch. And I think the pleasures of it will get you to doing more. And if you live in the city, community gardens are available. Check them out, and it's a great way to meet people as well.
Well, speaking about community gardens, that is a growing trend. You see it everywhere that you read about the green revolution, the urban gardening. Just like urban mining is a huge trend, urban gardening has also become a massive trend here in the United States and around the world.
Exactly, and you read about kids who were troubled teenagers who trouble with the law, drugs, whatever. One of the best therapies for them is to set them down with an eggplant. Let them take care of the parsley, and they suddenly actually. I'm laughing, but it's very seriously therapeutically beneficial to everybody, including kids. So it's a good way for people to reconnect. One of the trends that we've really seen in recent years with Americans has been isolation. We have been isolated. We're staring into our computer screens. We're avoiding eye contact. We have fewer people whom we call friends. So things like gardening get you outdoors, get you connecting with nature and other people, and it's really a wonderful thing.
That is just great. I shared with you while we were off the air, I just got to spend time in your wonderful community in Raleigh recently, and talk a little bit about ritual and community. You live in a beautiful community, one of the greatest communities in this country. Why is that so important?
Well, it's interesting. I have not been living in Raleigh long. I recently moved here, and I found the most fabulous neighborhood. I moved into a smaller home. It's close into downtown, and it's a walkable, friendly community. And that is what I would recommend to anybody who has the opportunity to make a change in their lives. If you're having the opportunity to move, I would say, you know what? You can give up a large yard if you can find a wonderful, hospitable community in which neighbors look out for neighbors, in which you have a lot of street life, in which people walk around or bike around. That is really great. And, for instance, when I moved here this year, I was out walking my dog just around the neighborhood, and I made friends with a fellow person who had dogs, and next thing I knew, I was invited to Christmas dinner at that person's house. That's what you're really looking for, is those kinds of connections. And I think simple living, slowing down your pace, and making some changes in your life, as I recommend in the Heart of Simple Living, will get you going in that direction.
Wanda, we're down to the last minute or so. Can you just share with us your final thoughts as we sign off here as to the shifts in lifestyle in America and the simple living now a fad, or is it really a trend that's here to stay and the wind is at your back?
It's so interesting because I remember radio interviews 20 years ago when my first book came out, and they were so combative. Now everybody is like, you is so friendly, and they want to know how to get on board. I think the trend is here to stay. Even the retail analysts at Walmart are saying that. People are more discriminating. They're not parting with their dollars as easily. They're really thinking through their purchases and bringing more consciousness to their lives. So that's what simple living's all about. And I'm going to put my money on the fact that it's here to stay.
Well, for our listeners out there, please buy Wanda's great book, The Heart of Simple Living, 7 Paths to a Better Life. Please also go to her beautiful website, www.simplelivingtv.net. Wanda Urbanska, you are simply the best and truly living proof that green is good.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
This program will be available for downloading in a couple of days from our station's website, keyword podcast. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week at the same time for another edition of Green is Good.